So Randy, as you know, I recently played through Hades, and I'm telling you what, it was the best indie game I have ever played.
That is some high praise.
Yeah, I mean, I've played a number of indie games, and I'm trying now to kind of work through the backlog of those games I missed because of how much I enjoyed Hades.
Now, you're going to have to tell me some stuff about Hades. Now, from what I understand, it's a rogue-like, or is it a rogue-lite? I'm not sure.
So, it is a rogue-lite, with a T. The difference in a roguelike and a roguelite is that a true roguelike, which I've actually never played since I recently learned this definition, is that there's no concrete upgrades or progression that you carry from run to run. A roguelite has some things that you actually improve upon and bring into your subsequent runs, and Hades definitely has that.
So, just to clarify, because I think we missed this is a game where it loops. You start back at the beginning every time.
Yes, so the whole point of Hades is you're trying to break out of the underworld, basically. I won't tell you too much about the story, but you're trying to break out of the underworld, and you do this over and over and over until you eventually do it. And honestly, the continuous deaths and the continuous loops and runs are built into the narrative, and it actually makes perfect narrative sense. So you would think a game formula like that would be weird from a narrative perspective, but it works perfectly in Hades.
Yeah, I was actually just about to ask that. If there was a narrative reason for why you keep doing the same thing over and over and over.
Yes, there is. I mean, you play as Zagreus, who is the son of Hades, who's obviously the god of the underworld. And Zagreus has some daddy issues.
Once you do beat the game and you end a run, is that the end? Is there any point of playing past that?
So yes, there absolutely is. It continues that narrative, and I'm purposely avoiding telling you anything concrete about the narrative, but it continues every time you break out. And in addition to that, once you get your first complete run, you can then engage these modifiers to your runs after that will make it more difficult and net you greater rewards. So there is incentive to keep playing and keep quote unquote beating it.
Is this a game that you would potentially play forever, or does it have a true ending?
My understanding is that there is a narrative ending, but I'm nowhere close to it. So I've got 2 complete runs under my belt. I got one just yesterday. I revisited the game just to kind of prep for this episode, and ended up doing a complete run almost on accident. So I intend to revisit it from time to time. I don't know that I'll ever make it to the narrative ending because I've just got too many games to play.
So I'm a little confused about this. After you complete a run, how do you continue to get more narrative endings? Is it that you do more loops?
So honestly, from a spoiler-free perspective, that's not really something I want to divulge at the moment. But yes, you do more runs of the same thing. However, through a variety of gameplay mechanics, every run feels fresh. So it doesn't get old, it doesn't feel repetitive.
So what do they do to keep it fresh throughout each run through?
So there's a huge variety of builds that you can use throughout the game, and these are created through a number of different gameplay elements. So first and foremost, the first thing you start to unlock are the 6 weapons that you can choose from. There's a sword, a spear, a shield, a bow, basically some crazy demonic boxing gloves, and some strange grenade launching rifle. And they all control very differently, and they all lend themselves to different styles of play. And in addition to just the base forms of the weapons, you can eventually unlock different quote-unquote aspects of each weapon, which fundamentally alter the way the weapons perform. So that in itself provides a huge amount of variety in keeping the gameplay fresh, but there's more. So in addition to the weapons and the variety of aspects for the weapons, there are these things called keepsakes. Keepsakes are basically trinkets that you collect during your various runs, and you get these from literally everyone you encounter. You get them from all the different gods of Olympus. You get them from Zeus, you get them from Ares, you get one from Hades, you even get one from the dog Cerberus, who's like the big demonic 3-headed dog. You even get a keepsake from him. And all these different keepsakes buff certain stats or give you certain skills that help you throughout your runs. Like, for instance, one of them gives you more max health, one of them gives you an extra revive if you die, and there's like, gosh, I don't know, maybe 30 of these different keepsakes. But the big thing that leads to variety in the gameplay and the builds are boons. And that was a word I wasn't honestly very familiar with when I started playing Hades. But boons are just upgrades that you get from the various gods, and they can come in multiple forms. They can come in the form of different status effects. They can be entirely new moves. They can fundamentally change one of your pre-existing moves to do something different. And you get these throughout your run. So every time you go into a different encounter in Hades, which is, they call them chambers because you're going from room to room, you get a reward when you beat the chamber. Oftentimes a boon will be one of those rewards. And each god has like, gosh, I don't know, maybe 15 or 20 different boons. And they appear somewhat randomly. There are ways to influence certain boons popping up when you want them to, fundamentally through like keepsakes and things like that. But what you learn throughout playing the game is which boons you kind of want to shoot for, which boons you like, what different effects you want your boon to do. But you do lose your boons after each run. And you can also upgrade your boons throughout the run. So there's a certain reward you can get from different chambers that will level up each of those boons that just make them stronger. So what you're really going for is you want to learn which boons you want that work together the best for the specific weapon and style you're playing with, and you kind of construct your build from there. All right, so the boon system, when I first started playing Hades, I kind of did a classic Daniel move in that I picked up Hades, I played a few runs, didn't really get into it, and then let it sit for like a year. But when I just revisited it, the boons are what was the most intimidating because there's so many. They do such a huge variety of things. You're always, trading them out for new boons, and I just didn't know what any of them do. And in addition to that, you're constantly being slaughtered. But once you get your head kind of wrapped around what seems like a convoluted upgrade system, what it really leads to is just endless variety and endless replay value.
I'm interested in the game, and there probably are going to be some people who are listening to this who are also interested. Are there any tips or tricks that you could give people who are maybe interested in playing that might make their playthrough of Hades more enjoyable from the beginning?
Yeah, I think so. So obviously, like I said, the first thing you're going to be doing is unlocking weapons. In my opinion, the best weapon is the shield. It's the easiest weapon to get a run through on, I think. So my advice would be get the shield. If you hold down your attack button with the shield, you can actually block. It's the only weapon in the game you can block with. And you can really turtle up and kind of choose the game that way. So that's a big tip. And something I didn't even touch on is that there are these permanent upgrades that you can buy with a different kind of in-game currency. And you upgrade these like in Zagreus's bedroom. There's like a fancy mirror and all that. Upgrade your Death Defiance immediately. Because what that does is it gives you, you come back to life, mid-run. And you can do that up to 3 times. So if you get killed, you come back and you don't start all the way over. In addition to Death Defiance, play around with those upgrades in the mirror because they can also provide some pretty big buffs.
Would you say it's one of those games that seems more complex and intimidating than it actually is?
Almost. I mean, it is complex. I don't really want to downplay that. But what I will say is that once you understand it, it's extremely rewarding. So it's not complex just for the sake of being complex. It's worth it. I wouldn't say go into it and expect eventually you're going to realize it's simple because it isn't simple. But I will say stick with it. Play yourself, 9 or 10 runs until you start to understand the boons, and it will be worth it. I mean, it probably takes, once you get it down, a full run might be 45 minutes long. And I got my first complete run on the 34th attempt. So, and that was like 15 hours into playing the game. So it's a little bit of a commitment to finally get a complete run. But once you know what to expect, it's even better. It's seriously one of the best games I've ever played. I gave it a 10 out of 10. I can see why it was in the Game of the Year talk last year. Too bad it went up against Last of Us Part 2.
Right.
One last thing I do want to add. If you're looking for a way to play this game, it's available on, I think, all the major platforms, PC, Switch, all that jazz. But it's on Game Pass. So if you have Game Pass, you can already play this game. And again, you will love it.
So tell us, guys, Has Daniel convinced you to play Hades? I think you've convinced me. I think I'm going to give this game a go. But we want to know what you think. If you've played Hades, tell us why you love it. If you've not played Hades, tell us why you're thinking about playing it. Or maybe why you're thinking about not playing it.
No, don't tell me that. Just leave that. Keep that to yourself. But also, follow us over on Twitter, guys. Our handle is @GameAndGig. We'd love to hear from you.
And until next time, I'm Randy.
And I'm Daniel.
And this has been Gaming Gig.
Peace out.